This is the Songwriting Mind, a program exploring the personal depths of creativity, stories, and craft that define songwriting. In this episode, we'll hear from Chad Monticue, producer, songwriter, and multi-instrumentalist based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Enjoy.
One, two, three. Hey, check.
Cool, man. I guess I've got a couple of curiosities and questions, but
Yeah.
I always start I started with Zach about asking when you first started writing. It doesn't necessarily need to even be songwriting, but any creative process or
Sure.
anything. Where did that begin for you?
I think for me it began when I was pretty young. I kind of would always just kind of wander around singing. I never took proper piano lessons, but I would always sort of put on a song that I would like to learn how to play and attempt to play along to it. And I had some friends that took piano lessons, and so they showed me some things. And then, when I was really young, would make some terrible hip-hop rhymes. I'm talking young, and it was just bad. And then you start growing up and you pick up a guitar, playing more piano. Talking about it now, when I think back, it was the piano. And I do find myself these days writing more on the piano, and I really enjoy that. Yeah, it's a good way to write. I write differently on piano than I might if I pick up an acoustic classic guitar. Mainly I'm a rhythm and bass guy, so bass is my main thing. So if I make a beat, I'm like, all right, I'm going to try to get some sort of sweet feel here and start there. That's a different thing. So kind of depending on how I want to write will be depending on what I pick up. But often, like Zach, it starts in voice memos if it's melody-based, which is, thank God for voice memos. It saves my life, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, there's a few things I was already thinking of because we talked a bit already. But one thing that I think will be interesting to kind of hear more about is your views on collaboration. And, I guess I'm curious about your different roles over the years in different projects and your roles in writing, arranging with one band versus another, and how those processes work for you?
It's a loaded question because it really depends. But yeah, I just like anybody else. I grew up playing a lot of different bands early on, bass, backing vocals, and just a lot of bands, and just kind of absorbing, writing collectively. How can I, just get in a room and write songs? When I was a little younger, through my 20s, I do kind of with band projects, I feel like somebody having a vision for a song or for an album is always helpful. So my partner in Animal Scream is a fellow named Josh Sickles. We started the band together. Our old band 123 had done a lot of stuff, and our singer Nick, who whistles in Canyon, by the way, because he plays guitar. He's a great guitar player, but he's also in the sound. He's in the sound design world now out in LA, so he's doing great as a composer. So in that band, my role was just hey, how can I take your vision of these awesome songs and lay down some sweet bass and maybe some backing vocals? You know what I mean? It's all about accentuating what's there. For Zach's project, it was all about refining what he's trying to say. He might have a melody. It's okay, that's cool. Let's let's map the song out more. Let's try to have some structure. Let's get in. I was mentioning before we were talking, our friends Ames, Harding and the Mirage, one of my favorite bands from Pittsburgh. Killer band, great songwriter, Ames, Harding, and we did several tracks with them that we collaborated on. A song called Santa Needs the Smile, which was an Animal Scream, Ames, Harding and Mirage collaboration. Really fun, kind of yacht rock disco song, really fun. But we did a song with him called Tiger Balm that is one of my favorite collaborations that I've done. And that was the song's there. How can we now it was more production, and it's a little bit different than working with Zach. So it wasn't so much songwriting with Ames with their track. It was more about how can we get some gnarly tones, and making suggestions of having Eli, the drummer, hey, maybe go off really. You already got the sweet groove laid down. Maybe in this part you just go off on drums and we take pieces of that, and then things like that. So it, depending on who you're working with, it really depends on what you do as a producer.
Oh, I find love when I sleep. Melodies I sow and reap. Nectar sweet and the honey sweeter from my lungs into the speaker. Tiger, I don't need you. I will follow my own lead down to the river as I see Let me sleep with thunder, keep me calm as we breathe in color. Spread your legs, wild and fateful flower, bloom in the gloom, bloom in the gloom. Freaky girl, feed me sweet bananas, shut my eyes, lead me through Havana, serpent's tongue, laced with fragrant nectar. Oh, temptation abounds, hypnotic, gracious and proud. But I find out when I sleep up melodies I sow and reap of nectar sweet and the honey sweeter from my lungs into the speaker. Tiger, I don't need ya, I will follow my only down to the river as I seek her. Tiger Balm, help and hide my fear, keep me calm as the fates appear. Hide my face in your fragrant flower, bloom in the gloom, bloom in the gloom. Freaky boy, won't you be my baseline? Shut my eyes as we sip the daylight. Serpent's tongue tells two different stories. Oh, temptation abounds, hypnotic, gracious and proud. But I find out when I sleep up melodies I sow and reap of nectar sweet and the honey sweeter from my lungs into the speaker. Tiger, I don't need ya, I will follow my only down to the river as I seek her. But I find out when I sleep up melodies I sow and reap of nectar sweet and the honey sweeter from my lungs into the speaker. Tiger, I don't need ya, I will follow my only down to the river as I seek her.
I know, like, a lot of people sort of, might make fun of, like, producer eye roll, but I feel like you have to be good at identifying what a song needs. Am I co-writing? Am I taking it home and adding string parts on MIDI? There's a lot of hats, and I think that's fun, It should be different every time, Something popped up recently. I was talking to my friend Ames about this. We had a record listening party at his house. So it was just like, I'm going to grab a few records, and he grabbed some. Hey, have you checked this out? Really fun. And I got the good spot. I got to sit in the middle of the room, surround sound, and I'm like, soaking it all in. But we were talking, we'd seen the same interview with Brian Eno. I don't know when the interview was from, honestly. I don't remember. But essentially he was saying limitations, budget limitations. Hey, we have 10 days to make this record, limitations. And we didn't have that with Zack's record because simply we were out playing shows. It was like, okay, we're going to Spain. And then, okay, now we're back. Hey, can you get in the studio? So it was sort of like, it would have been cool to have limitations, but like also like I think getting out there and doing stuff. I told him, I'm like, kind of use that experience and maybe go song to song, and maybe that'll tell the story on the album. And I think it worked for his record a lot, But for Animal Scream, we were very guilty of like going down the rabbit hole. I can admit that. Like I think would probably benefit about not being so precious sometimes. But at the same time, like, we get in there, we geek out. We're like, oh, man, what if we did this? What if we tried that? And that's, shit, man, it's part of the fun, right?
You use the word precious. I've heard songwriters talk about, like, their songs are so close, they're their darlings, they're babies and all this stuff.
Sure.
I guess what interests me is being able to sort of get your own self out of the way in service of the project, or like finding, like, what is my role here? What can I contribute?
Yeah.
So you're talking about that, right? In these
Yeah.
producing roles. Have you had a project that you feel is more closer and more of, like, it's like it's more your baby?
Yeah, that's a really good question. From a producer role, or like in my own project?
In your own.
Well, we just put out a record called Otherworldly Pictures, and we dropped that on Valentine's Day, February 14th, and it's an EP, and I'm really proud of it. It's got a lot of, I almost feel like very exposed lyrically on it. I tend to write fragmented lyrics, like kind of like from the school of like maybe like a Tom York, like where sort of like we'll write down fragments, and then I'm like kind of like, wow, man, I don't know what the hell I'm trying to say here. What does that mean? I'm like, oh, well, yeah, maybe this line means this, maybe it means that. But on this album, I kind of feel like I'm at times singing, and I'm like, oh man, I kind of feel embarrassed, like, that I'm singing about this. But that's kind of a cool spot to be in, And I don't know if anybody listening to it feels that way, but that's how I felt making it. And what was cool about the record was we had got this idea that, well, what if we get some producer friends to take those 6 songs that are on side A of the record, or if you're on Spotify or whatever, Bandcamp, it's just 6 songs. And what if we have them just totally carte blanche to, like, just mash these songs up? And it was all like friends. So I think that it wasn't just like, oh, here's some trippy remix. It was like they all did a really great job of really, like, taking the elements and the stems of the songs and making a whole other different thing. And so side A is, Animal Scream, Otherworldly Pictures, and side B is, these creative remixes that I'm really quite proud of. They're really, really sweet. By our friends that happen to also be, collaborators, producers, and songwriters in their own right.
I'd love to hear about maybe even just a specific song that you feel like is that way, where lyrically it's very revealing.
The song Otherworldly Pictures I feel that way about. Yeah, I do a lot of writing on my porch at night. After family time, I have a little kid, got a very supportive wife at home. I'm very lucky. It's not lost on me how grateful I am. And so sometimes you just have that time, like at the end of your day, it's like, I'm going to come out on the porch here, I'm going to have a cigarette, I'm going to reflect or whatever, and that's when I'll bust out my voice memos. I'll sing a melody, or I'll have a line, and I'm like, oh man, that's pretty sweet. And that song kind of came that way, and I was just sort of like spitting out just sort of just different things, and then and you sort of get them down on paper or into your voice memos, and then you're like, oh, what am I kind of trying to say here, But that one in particular, I felt very vulnerable on, in a good way, and that's a good place to be.
Never said that it was over. You can't say I
So this is like maybe going off a bit, but I've found it very interesting talking with songwriters that do have families, and I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about that, like about like family life and like how that informs your creative life.
Well, you were talking about limitations, and it sort of forces you to have those. So I like, hey babe, I got to run here for a few hours. I'm like, okay. In my brain, I'm like, a few hours. That sounds like recording time, right? So you steal any moments you can. You go outside, you make a voice memo. All right, I can't maybe lay down vocals for this track today, but what I can do is maybe put on that one mix that I'm like struggling with, and I can just spend 2 hours and listen to that. And you sort of, it does sort of, those limitations are helpful, because then it's like, well, okay, like while I'm, maybe I practice singing the song better while I mix this other thing, and I don't have the time to record vocals because it's a noisy household today. But you steal a corner, you get in there and you just do it. I mean, it's only an obstacle if you make it one. And I have made it one before. I get cranky like anybody else. So, but what can you do? I mean, you have to get it out. So you go down and you get it out as best you can, and in the time within the time restraints that you have, right? That's all you can do. But it's important to do it. You have to make time for it, and it can be hard. Yeah.
One thing that comes up pretty often is like where we write from or why we write. Common themes that keep coming up is like cathartic writing, reflective writing, even like science fiction or fantasy, or just totally like imaginative storytelling type.
For sure. It depends on my mood, like I think for, like I was saying, like this Otherworldly Pictures record for the band was it's a very personal record for me. I tend to hide a lot. Previous records, I take a lot of lyrical inspirations from things I see. It's almost like a voyeuristic approach. I have a friend that went through something, taking a piece of that, and then maybe there's a piece of me in it too. But sometimes it's topical. Certainly, there's a lot going on in the world. I read a book called The Book of Strange New Things. It was a sci-fi novel that really floored me. Really loved it so much that I wrote a song called "Strangled" up in 2 about it. I won't go into look up the book. It's worth it. I won't go into the premise too hard, but it was very much a sci-fi inspired song. So I kind of took that approach with it, kind of like this fantasy role within that song, and it's quite a beautiful story. But it's all about, at the end of the day, communication and communication breakdown. And our record at that time that we put out was called Heartbrook Motel, and it was all about, what's your record about? It's about communication. And in life, that's what everything comes down to. You might catch me on a bad day and that guy's such an asshole, but I just might have not had my coffee, or I just might have, snapped at you or something. It's just all about communication, So that's what that song was about, and that record in particular. But what a great novel, though, man. The Book of Strange New Things. Really loved it. Yeah.
A message from someone from the future who's taken us, someone unfamiliar and overgrown. Now we are the tourists up into the sun. I woke up, I'm floating, I can't even tell. It's cold and I'm sweating, I'm posing myself. And since we're connected, I thought I'd reach out to send you a message you want. But I say,
That's awesome. That's really cool. I love this thing of like, I mean, you talked about like the sort of voyeuristic writing where it's like there's certain things in life that, and as like a writer, as a creative person, there's these things that you catch and you're like, that image is something you couldn't even have imagined, but it's just presented in life, and then now that finds its way into your art, right?
For sure.
So I'm wondering if maybe you could talk about one of those instances of writing kind of a song about someone else or another experience, how you tie that to your life, and then how you put that into a song.
You know, I don't want to get too personal here and name drop anybody in particular, but yeah, again, to the new album, because it was based a lot on personal experiences or friends' personal experiences, right? But there's a track on the record called It's Gonna Be Cruel that was just about a disintegration of a friend's marriage that really hit home with me because of the struggles he was going through. So a lot of the lyrics in that song were from that kind of place, and me kind of pouring my heart out on that song on his behalf, kind of. I guess I don't, sometimes I forget what a song's about until we talk about it, but I'm like, oh yeah, when you said that, that's the first one that comes to mind, and it's also on that new album as well.
mentioned a band that you had played in with these folks before. Did you put out material with that band? Was it 1-2-3?
Oh yeah, our previous band. Yeah, we did. Yeah, well, actually, was nice talking about that. That's one of the favorite records I think I ever played on. It was an album called Big Weather, and we had the band unfortunately we got dropped from our label, French Kiss Records, and we were sort of like, man, like what now? What are we gonna do? And our singer had all these great songs, he was writing, and he was sort of like writing this record. Just kind of this sort of like a Americana psych folk record sonically, but from a place of like, well, what happens like when all this shit goes down with, again, where we're at now, and sort of like life after that and what life might be. So, I mean, not just because he's my friend, but some of my favorite lyrics are on that record of anything I've been a part of, because it has such a vision. It's truly a polarizing vision. Like, you're going to like put that record on and be like, this isn't for me, or like, holy shit, it's an adventure album. In fact, Zack had done a listening party in Pittsburgh at a venue in Lawrenceville. It was great. Like, just spin the record a few times, people were having drinks. And I had a couple folks come up to me and said that it was like one of their favorite albums of all time, and they were like so stoked to just talk about Big Weather. And I was like, dude, that's awesome. And at that time, I kind of really needed to hear that. So it's just, that's why you do it. I mean, it's not the only reason you do it, but you want to connect with people, and you want to like hopefully make something that you're leaving, not only leaving something behind, but something they connect to, and maybe helps them get through some shit. Yeah. It's really it. One of my favorite songs on the album is a track called Bust the Babylon. Yeah, check that one out. Yeah.
Humming on but gasoline is gone, and I'm a thing of the past. And I'm a thing of the past. And I'm a thing. And I'm a thing. And I'm a thing of the past.
We were digging into the Zack stuff yesterday.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if there's any tunes that you didn't talk about yesterday that might be worth
Of his?
chatting about. Yeah.
On Battery Lane. So Animal Scream is me and Josh and our friend Caleb Pujor, who's also a multi-instrumentalist and singer-songwriter in his own right. He's been a long-time friend, so he's playing with us now too. But Zack had approached me and Josh to work on the record, and Jake is a long-time friend, and we've produced stuff with him in the past at his studio. So we had a lot of cooks in the kitchen, but it was also like me and Josh sort of like function as like one brain. And then Jake's just like, it's just Jake. It's like, he's just our buddy. So, and Jake it was all happening in his studio. So he's just like, everything's set up. It's like, you want to jump on the organ, you want to jump on the piano and jump on the drums. It's kind of easy because he knows his space. Which song in particular to talk about? I really liked Incredible a lot. The song Incredible. That was fun. That song was just a weird, fun pop song. We didn't know what the hell we were doing with that song. But I had a really fun time just like figuring that one out with everybody in the studio. At that time, Mitch had come in, that plays keys with Zack, and he really added some really great flavor in that song. So almost some like enchanted Disney exit music in that song. I really like that one. I don't even know what I'm rambling on about at this point, but
The way you sweat, the way you grew, the way you always knew. Fairy tale, close call, going off the rails, but you're so irresistible. Make a man go mad. It's so incredible what we have.
Zach typically, kind of like how probably a lot of us, right? Like, hey, I have this voice memo, or hey, I've got this Washington, D.C. song. And so we had kind of talked together about his experiences of him living in D.C. and I think in his transition back to Pittsburgh, because it was a struggle for him. And I think we wanted to like talk about like his environment there, what was surrounding. And, and you try to like, you want to take the themes of these different songs or identify like, hey, what are you singing about? And you want to try to make them in a way that communicates it. Like, so for example, that song, he had the Washington, D.C. chorus, but I think I made the suggestion, sing to me, sing it sour, sing it sweet. Because to me, that's kind of how Zack communicates to his audience. And I don't mean that in any bad way, but it was a line that really made sense to me. And so I suggested that. And I always told Zack, it's like, dude, these are suggestions. This isn't me like cracking the whip on your ass, like take it or leave it. I think this song would sound better 3 BPMs up, might have better feel, or hey, we should slow this down. And Jake, the same thing. Jake's a great singer. He has a band called Denora, and he creates and writes and sings these high falsetto parts and does all kind of stuff. And so he's interjecting things and ideas, all these little tags, like, and we just it's just so much fun, man. Like just creating music. Like you just get in a room and it is hard and challenging when you have too many cooks in the kitchen, but if you can control that aspect of it. And also in that song, I'm just trying to prop out everybody that was involved because so many people that worked on the record. But our friend Jordan that plays in the band had this guitar tag of this delayed guitar in the beginning. When we had heard that, we were just like, oh, dude, that part's just like great. Like we loved it so much, and it became like just something that you grab onto that just feels right. Like, yeah, that has to be in this. And he's like, oh, you like that? We're just like, dude, like that's the shit, like.
Blossoms, war in the streets, dirty windows that won't open anymore. I'm a scratched up, broken record walking out of my front door. Washington, D.C., Washington, D.C., Washington, D.C., sing to me, sing to me. Out in the garden, forgotten how to breathe. Death and diamonds and poets in the street. And I'm staring down a city I don't live in anymore. And I fell in love with living, and remember life is short. Washington, D.C., Washington, D.C., Washington, D.C., sing to me, sing to me. Washington, D.C., sing it sour, sing it sweet. Washington, D.C., sing to me, sing to me.
And Josh in that song, my partner in Animal Scream, he's a great arranger, like you got to repeat this line, or he's really great at like seeing that big picture of like, you should shorten this part, and it's invaluable because I trust his ears. He listens to so much great, diverse music. We should do this thing at the end where it's kind of like this, and like, oh yeah, let's try that. Like, it's just experimentation. It's like having a coloring book, and you're just like, you just go off on it, man, and then hopefully the challenge is like you don't want to go so far down the rabbit hole where you're again too precious. So that's the slippery slope of it all. But I mean, shit, man, let's not forget. Like I always tell Zach, no matter what he's doing, he gets stressed out. I'm like, don't forget one thing. Don't forget to have fun. right? And the shit's fun. You know, it's supposed to be fun. It's not always fun, but it should be, you know. It's been fun.
Thank you for listening to the Songwriting Mind. This interview with Chad Monticue was recorded on March 29, 2025 at Flying M Coffee House in Boise, Idaho, during Treefort Music Festival. Original songs featured in this episode by Ames Harding and the Mirage, 123, Zack Keim, and Animal Scream.
Check out Otherworldly Pictures, Animal Scream's new EP. Very proud of it. It's pretty fresh too, just dropped in February. So.
If you enjoyed this episode, please rate the podcast, leave a comment, share it with others, and follow us on socials. Peace.